Hello and welcome back to module number 6. And in this module, we are going to talk about generating the supported images to build your wireframe. In your wireframe, we talked about trying to have a frame that will be consistent throughout your website. What does it mean? And that every page that the user will look at your website will look the same, feel the same, and will provide the same structure, so it will not be a surprise that every page has something else and the user is not accustomed to see. So the whole point is structure, giving in the form of design. So this is the design that might be a simple design that you might want to. And one of the things that we talked about in the past is the idea of styling sheet. And so many of you ask more directions about style sheet. So here it is. We are going back to the style sheet, and I will try to show you that the style sheet can be applied to different aspects and even applied to images. And we will look at the example that I posted in your last module and try to give you a accurate account how to do it, and we are going to see how it's being done. So the style sheet has to be local or external, as we talked about. External is a separate page or separate file that needs to be addressed, or internal is part of the HTML. My recommendation, and as the example that I posted on Canvas, use external because it has more powerful and provide you the ability to link to two external style sheets and be able to combine them into one page, that so you will have the ability to manipulate that. So it is very powerful tool. And the style sheet rule is to make up selector and declaration. And the declaration is the idea of define the property and the value of the sector. Example of a sector, a body. Example of the sector is the H1. H1 is the top text that is highlighted up in front. Or paragraph, P. So those are the things that you need to apply, and the properties and the values. You can use text to define it, example purple or green, or you can leave the number color HTML color index in order for you to do that, in order for you to apply it. It's up to you to decide which one works best for you. So you embedded that into the syntax of the style sheet, and you can group sectors. Example, you can have in the style sheet H1, 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 and give it different look at the H1. It can be black, it can be font weight bold, and it can have a background white. So basically, we are saying color black, font white, weight is bold, and the background is white, and this is how it will look like. We can have different values to different aspect of your website. H1, different color, H2, or same color, H2 and H3, and all of them is part of the structure that we are trying to apply. We can also play with a paragraph. So paragraph, as you remember in Word document that you created an essay, wrote an essay, you have a paragraph. So you understand that the paragraph can be also embedded into the style sheet, and in this case, the P. We can have the width of the paragraph, we can have the font of the paragraph, color of the paragraph, etc., etc. So working with the paragraph, we can use that, and again, we can apply style sheet into that particular paragraph, and we can again embed more colors and more ideas inside in order for us to do that. So I'm repeating the issue of the external and the issue of import to add extra layer. That is part of the issue that we need to add. It's not one dimension. The code in Stylesheet can add you additional dimension that is really important. So you use add, import, and you're going to add another text. Headers is the same thing, and ability to apply to it in the current environment. Normal paragraph is probably the standard way for us, and I want you to go over that and just read that so you will have sense what it is. If you are using Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Cloud from USF, there's a great outline of Dreamweaver and Stylesheet by Abraham Coffin, and this is the website. I will also have the link into the page on Canvas, and so you will be able to do that. He goes over and specifically address each one of it. Back to our discussion about the wireframe, and we talked about the issue that not only you need to decide on it, you now need to start talking about properties of the layer itself, the layout of it itself, the width, the height, the margin, the border, and so on. So all of that is part of the style sheet that allowed us to do that, and it gives us the ability to apply specific portion and a specific ability to add to it. So in this case, we declare the box as an object, and in this case, we can give it dimensions, 50 px or 50 em or 100% or auto, in order for us to apply the size of it, in order for us to do that. We can also apply floating boxes inside the HTML. This is something that is really important when you want to have a little bit more extensions of the design into it, and this is really easy to use and apply. So in this case, we are calling the syntax of the style sheet, in this case is the box, and we are going to say float, left, margin, right, 10 px, and so it will give us something like that in that box that we created. We can have a clear, that is the property detach the element of the caravan that allowed us to start on a new line, and this is quite cool. And in this case, block 3, background, white border, and in this case, it will give us a line, a clear property to detach the 3 boxes inside. We can also have a border definition or border design to it, so you can define the entire border or only the top, bottom, left, or right, and you decide how you want to apply to it. We can also have pending, which is again the idea of a frame. That's how I call it. And you can create a frame that allowed us to have a more focus on the box itself. And you can have a margin, give it another layer or another frame into it so it will look better. Text properties, again, there's a lot of options in style sheet. In order for us to do that, we can use the colors, we can decide letter spacing, we can decide of text transformation. Is it uppercase or is it lowercase? Word spacing, text alignment, font family, size, style, and on and so on, in order for you to do that. We can also work in the style links in order for us to apply to it. But one of the things that I did not talk about the entire in the previous sections is the ability to embed text, the images into the style sheet. So this will give you some consistency with the images that you're working. So the property with working with images include the background image, the background repeat, the position, and attachment. So in this case, what you see here on the top is basically on the background, there is a layer. So with the flowers, white with flowers with a white background. And we are going to create two boxes. The main box is going to be not red, but blue. And the other box was going to be yellow. My mistake, I wrote red and I created blue. My mistake about that. I'll fix it in the PowerPoint after that. So in this case, you're going to see that we can apply images in our background in order for it to make more structural design that will lay out throughout the website. So the background image property is set as a background of the element. So we will call it a li and a background image, and we're going to bring the name of the image, and we are going to say it's going to pending left with a 10 px in order for us to apply that. We can also do a repeat background to all the pages in our website to look at the possible consistency. So possible value, we can use it on horizontal, we can use it vertical, or we can use no repeat. So in this page, there will be no repeat of the background. We can also define the position of the image if we want it not as a background, but a position. So it will be consistent throughout the website. So background position, right top, you can also use it. You can also use fix, so it will capture the entire thing. Again, the options are endless, and you are the one who needs to decide how can I play with it. There's a lot of resource on the subject, and this is part of my attempt to show you. I want to go now to the example that I gave you in the last module. And this is, again, the issue of what it is. I'm using Firefox because Firefox allowed me to look inside the code in order for me to detect what's going on in the background. So in this case, I'm using the inspector, and the inspector will show me that I'm doing something wrong. So I'm closing it, and I'm using, hold on a second, just give me 2 seconds. And okay, so I found the image, I found the page, and as you can see, it takes some time to work with it in order for you to apply. Just know what the location of the files. This is really important. So now let's go to the image, and I'm going to ask the Firefox to inspect the element. And as you can see, it's basically a style sheet in action. And so it gives us the idea of what it is. It gives us the idea of where it appears, and he will define it as active. And you see here, if you look closer, we'll try to make it bigger. So you will have zoom in. Zoom in again. Hold on, just give me 2 seconds. So it gives us the idea of the star sheet and give us the idea of what it is. And you see the background and you see the colors when you move over. So basically, the designer decided this is how I want to display that. But there is another options, and my job is to show you other options. One of the most popular option is use two colors, using an image with two colors and you're going to change the colors every time the user on it. So what do you need to do? You need to Photoshop, and you need the size of the image, and you're going to use the Photoshop, in this case, write the text, and you're going to save it as two images, one in red and one in black. So when you go over, you will ask the JavaScript to display the default number, the black or the red, and the overlap or the overmouse to display the other. One of the things that I also wanted to show you is the size. In this case, I can decide to show you the size of the image, and I can bring it back to Photoshop and start to play with it. So this is the image. So Photoshop allowed me to duplicate or apply image or calculate, and it gives me the idea of the size. In this case, it's 340 by 240. And one of the things that we learned about resolution is the quality of the image. So in this case is low resolution, 72. We can have 300 or we can have 800. Resolution of 800 usually goes to the printing. When you print a book, usually the printer will recommend you to use high resolution. Over the web, we do not need such high resolution. We are doing quite well with 72, and it also gives us the idea that the weight of the images is not so heavy. So in this case, we are able to transform it or to apply to it without the user have to wait to download all those heavy images into the page. Something to think about. So in this case, you can create your own image. I will create, example, a new image, and it already set up for me. And I can copy and paste, I can do a lot of things to the image, and I will give you reference to how to work with Photoshop and web technology, web design, in order for you to do that when you are creating your background or your design schema that you are applying to. So this is the Photoshop. It is quite powerful images, and I think it's worth the waiting for the Photoshop to come, so you will be able to enjoy it and not just use online applications that sometimes do not produce the high quality. Photoshop is a high quality image editor. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoy it. I will share with you all the resources that I talked about this in this module, and I hope it makes sense. And if not, please ask or raise questions. Until next time, enjoy.